I don't know what this would look like if there wasn't so many things that were trying to keep a person from actually climbing the hill. It wouldn't even be a hill. You get it? It wouldn't be a mountain. Meaning if there was no challenge, if there was not something trying to pull you over here, some demon trying to come from there and, hey, come down here and get some of these big booties. You know what I mean? If it wasn't something that was trying to pull you down, there would be nothing to wrestle against. See, that's why sometimes you got to sit back and just close your eyes and you feel it. And you're like, this is not something that I'm trying to look at like a movie and see it happen. I'm never going to see it happening that way. Even if I'm looking externally and I open my third eye, I'm not necessarily going to see it. It's inside in the everyday actions that we're making of how the consciousness is already trained. It's being trained or has been trained to keep one captive.
The following clip is exclusive content from the university. Access over 300 videos and 26 courses with advanced metaphysics on demand. Jump in live chats with Savan and the rest of the tribe. New materials are available monthly along with guides and regimens. Subscribe today and save $25 off your first month membership. Links are in the descriptions. Subscribe to Secret Energy TV or this channel for future show notifications. Wholeness.
The universe is considered to be billions of years old. Modern science, as well as Hindu cosmology, acknowledge this. But while modern science began to contemplate the existence of parallel universes and multiple realities only recently, Hindus have dwelled on these possibilities since ancient times.
The climb.
As per some schools of thought, there are 14 worlds, or lokas, in existence. 7 of these realms exist above the plane that humans exist on. The highest loka is Satyaloka. This is where Brahma, or the supreme consciousness, exists, free from the fetters of birth and death. The dimension under that is known as Tapaloka. This world is inhabited by immortal beings who are personifications of knowledge. They are beings of great purity and can access Brahmalok, the realm above them, with great ease. Under this level is Janaloka.
I want to stop there because I'm not going to go back over this and itemize this, but realize what's being said, that when you're in this state, you can reach this state with ease. And this is a very, very important thing to understand about the vibration determines what you're able to connect to, which, you know, is that basics, right? That's metaphysics 101. But let's keep going.
This world is inhabited by immortal beings who are personifications of knowledge. They are beings of great purity and can access Brahmalok, the realm above them, with great ease. Under this level is Janalok, where realized beings live. These are souls who have complete and unhindered access to the material world. They can travel to any place at the speed of thought. Then comes Maharlok, the abode of great sages and rishis. These are beings who through long periods of tapasya have become greater than the devas themselves. Following this, there is Swarglok, a world that is often mistakenly assumed to be heaven. This is where deities like Indra exist. It is also home to various sages and Gandharvas. Mythological accounts show it as being on top of Mount Meru.
Notice what he says. On top of Mount Meru is where most people think heaven is. As they show in the original diagrams, that the tip of Mount Meru is like the tip of where the hourglass goes from the bottom to the top. So there's a whole nother realm above, but most people hit that first realm and be like, yo, I reached heaven. Or shoot, they may reach that one level below and be like, yo, I reached heaven and still didn't make it yet. Let's finish.
The Devas, there is Bhuvarlok. This is the realm of the sun and the planets. It is also the plane where life-supporting atmosphere exists. This level is inhabited by semi-divine beings who may occasionally become part of the human world as well.
Okay. So once again, the sun, the moon, the stars, the celestial bodies, and all of that still sitting a bit low on the whole higher world thing. And this is why when one's increasing the potential and the awareness of who they are, you move out of the limitations of even the things that, like somebody said, I'll give you a star, I'll give you the moon. And it's like, I'm good. That sounds like it's heavy. I'm trying not to really climb up the next thing with that, right? And I think somebody's writing on the thing. 1 second. What's going on over there? Okay, I think somebody did their own edit, so I appreciate if you don't edit over the video right now. Just give it 1 second. We almost done. We almost done. Here we go.
Who may occasionally become part of the human world as well. Under all these dimensions is Bhulok, the 7th plane of existence. This is where human beings live along with all the other species of life. In addition to the Earth, Bhulok is said to contain millions of other worlds as well. Within each of the above lokas, there is scope for sideways movement, and there are worlds within all these worlds. In short, the idea of heaven is not as simple as we might think.
Exactly. You see what he said? He said that there is a vertical movement. Okay? And what this vertical movement does, and we're seeing that vertical movement, they're depicting it as the zigzag. That vertical movement smears the experience together. And this is how you could be in the realm with an enlightened being. And you would be thinking, well, shoot, if I'm not enlightened, then there's no enlightened beings here. And then meanwhile, you have groups of beings that know they're already on another level. And they're just coming back into this because they have access to this plane and quite a few more. And each time, because you could peep out what's really happening here as the climb continues, just like you hear about the devas, there's always a new challenge to remove the possession because the possession is greater. It's like the energetics are greater. And this is why anytime you go on any kind of journey, it's like the energy is overwhelming. It's like it goes from pleasure to, okay, this is too much. Let me need to come down. Maybe I took too much. Okay, this is ridiculous. I'm about to die. No, help me. Help me, God. You just start melting down. So there's like a whole process where you just come up and you come down. And that's also what I want to make sure that I mention here is that, behold, we saw the ladder going up and down. So once I walked all the way up, and that was definitely through solace after I came here to Costa Rica and just was completely, I mean, I was dolo. Like I used to wear a velvet hood on my head as a 6'2" Black man in Costa Rica that can't speak the language. So I'm sticking out like a sore thumb anyway if I'm in the city. So I'm generally in the mountain. There's nobody around. I got maybe a machete with me just in case the dogs try to trip. And I'm just dialing into consciousness. No more of the previous life and the previous existence. So I walked all the way up and it opened up. And then as I was deeply basking in the glow of self, or they say basking in the glow of the gods, an email came in. The next mission is to go all the way down. What do you mean all the way down? We talking about like back to the surface? I'm like, no. Down to the dweller of the threshold. When they talk about like that snake with the mini hoods, those are the dwellers of the threshold. The opposite end of the spectrum, if you may, in order to be able to fully circumferences, that's why they call it a pantheon. As the sun pans through the sky, and then when you see it dip over the horizon, now it goes into the underworld. And we talked about that, about the journey at night in the boat. And of course, that's also in our Kemetan awareness of that. Now, as they call it, the dark night of the soul. Now, you got to go and dig out the ugly, and you're going to see yourself raw and unhindered. And if you can come from that, if you then come out of the water, they say that's when you're thrown up from the mouth of the dragon. They generally have it looking like a huge fish. Because what you've literally done is that you've plunged yourself completely into something, but still from the pure level. That's what I was saying about, so you come back in and you have a nice car or a nice house and a nice life and a nice wife and a nice kid and all of these different things, people that love you, but it doesn't process to you the same way it would process for somebody who hasn't gone up and then gone down. And then realize that the whole key of actually being able to go in through these spaces is to not come in looking for something. That's why they tell you that the worst thing for people dealing with deep levels of occultism is to, one, not have found somebody that they love or want to be with, and they still are in that, like, I'm trying to find my twin flame, or that they're broke and they haven't figured out the money thing. Because all they're going to do, if they can summon, which is through the heart, the soul, and the mind, I call it HSM. It's a formula. With all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. If you can activate that, you can accomplish any level of magic. But few have something that they need to happen so bad that they can summon that kind of force within themselves. So that force thus is off limits. Generally, if someone is sick and you know you're a healer and you're sitting on a healing path, you can sum up a certain level of energy to heal that person, but you may not be able to go every day and just start now becoming a healer, because you need to be able to have a consciousness that you can so deeply be connected and so deeply aware of your connection. And that's why the physical connection is only a surface connection. That's why they say beauty is only skin deep. So you can't really perform the miracle. The miracle is to live after death, to talk to them again. But this is like the first video phones you need to be, the first video phones. Each person needed to have one. If one person forfeited the journey and you climb completely, there still can be no communication. This is why the masters and the rishis and the gurus and all the rest of them keep coming into the world. Because it's like you're coming back for your mother or your father. And until they can get on that aspect of communication, you cannot see them again. And this is symbolic for why when people feel like when somebody dies that they can't see them again. It's like, oh, I'll never see them again. I have to let them go. And this is because the inability to be able to communicate from the spiritual aspect of things. And there's more. There are beings that have filled themselves up with so much light, if you may, or enlightenment, that they can go and get other beings out of lower levels. We are doing this in real time. If you think you may be visualizing it like a Hollywood movie with CGI and everything, you just see them flying in, you know what I mean? There's a flame behind them, you know, the hair's done, you know, you're seeing it like that. And it's really just when you're transmitting a message to someone, or you're able to be that form of connection for them, for the resources they may need, or you're just that support of that person who is there for them in that time. See, that's how it happens. That's because the Supreme is a universal form. And if we want to communicate with it, we can see it through everything. But when we start possessing things, we can't see it anymore. We only see the shells. Okay, now, shells, or also known in Kabbalah as shigadil. These entities are basically, now remember what I talked about earlier about how, so there's a husk around the consciousness. We talked about how in programming and all the things that are going on in this experience, it develops this husk or this shell. And then when the person, you know, moves on, they actually get trapped inside of the shell. And that's why there's worlds within worlds, because they're basically like trapped still inside of this egg or this husk. But this egg and this husk actually has a personality too. And that's why they say you can't change the world, but you can influence it. Right? You can't change what's going on, but you can influence it, because we all can influence this. But the greatest influence that we can make would be on a spiritual level. However, just awareness to be in the know, what the modern Western occultism was capable of doing is evoking the shells. That's why they even play around in graveyards. They play around with necromancy. And what they're doing is they'll find a great mane. This is one who's died in battle. Gladiators, titans, the renowned, right? Gigantic souls that were warlike. And they'll call upon its shell using their formulas and their rituals. And that's all of Western magic. Instead of attempting to achieve Atma, work with moksha, balance out karma, gain dharma, reach nirvana, they were like, well, shoot, I'm not climbing up the mountain. I'm going to communicate with the distorted, the shells. And so they call the shells. And the shells, their only interest is like quicksand, to pull more people down there, because that's all the money. The money is the spirits. Okay. Like, that's why it's so difficult to teach your consciousness the difference between a soul and a spirit. We have gotten so used to using these words interchangeably, it literally fuses our consciousness. I always have to correct myself all the time, because you just want to say the soul. And it's because you get the feeling first into the soul. And we want to feel that way for everyone, but everyone, when they go into that individual aspect, they're spirits. Spirits are just parts of the flame. Like even alcohol, it's spirits, it's highly flammable substance. A fire-like condensed watery substance. It contains a fuel and a potential of energy if it can be ignited. So thus the spirits are quarrelsome. They love to fight, and they light up and then they burn out like batteries. And like phoenixes, they rise again. Now, here's another mystery. Like Jupiter is a planet that produces more energy than the sun is giving it. What this symbolically means is that when following the metaphors of the path of the three, one, which is guru, one can actually achieve a state of over perpetual. So you wouldn't be depending on anything. In fact, you would have an extra potential of energy if you followed the path of guru, which simply means the aesthetic in itself, the discipline. Like, read through the Droidish numerology book on number 3. We were laughing about this the other day because we were reading and going over some things that we're going to be doing with Eniology Yoga with Andrew Seeley. And I was laughing because I was like, man, you know, the writer of this book must have been a number 3, because like all the other signs kind of get thrown under the bus at some point. But number 3, it just keeps going on and on and on. And then even when it gets into the bad stuff, it's like, and he's got luck. He was like, oh, and he could get into this, he could get fat, and he could lose this and this and this and get back, but he's got luck. I'm like, damn, number 3. You know what I mean? So, you know, we're hanging around number 3s more, acting like number 3s more. So it's just the awareness that perpetual energy and the existence of perpetual energy unlocks with the being that is capable of over-sustaining themselves. Not even just sustaining, but over-sustaining themselves. So that way there's some to trickle out. There's some to give to others. That's what the guru is. They've tapped into enough energy to where they can actually disperse that energy with some others without feeling like they need something back. Because the guru will fall at every moment from the balance in coming into the possession of any of the disciples. So that means the guru always has the responsibility as like, man, don't look to me, look to yourself. Same thing that you had to do, I had to do myself. You understand? Like, let's keep going with this. And then again, in ancient cultures, they would do that by doing things that the disciple felt like was beneath the guru. Like, I don't know why the guru is playing that music. I'm smarter than the guru. I'm holier than the guru. This is what the guru would want, because it gives that being the lack of attachment, right? It removes the attachment. And that's the master lesson. So in conclusion, the supreme gift then, the ultimate gift. See, there is an ultimate reward to this. The parents are putting us through something indeed. The ancestors are putting us through something indeed, but they got a grand surprise. If you can graduate this universe or this university, there's one master lesson being taught, and that is about the difference, again, between falling in love or being liberated. Do you see everybody around you that you're communicating with, your friends, your family, is just another of the many faces of the Supreme? Or do you see them as a singular existence? And that's where the feedback system is. Because if you see them as a singular existence, that's when you're seeing them with your two eyes. And then all of the senses shut down from there. So that question that keeps getting answered all the time about your family members and how long you still need to be around them and all that stuff, man, that's petty to still be in that mindset. It's like all these are myriad of the portals that you get a chance to go through in serving up your existence. So in conclusion also, the lower realm, the symbolism of something being under something like sand, dirt, something heavy, is the symbol of possession, right? Because it's like, it just makes you heavy. You're this vibratory field and you could be oscillating very fast, but the more thoughts that you have, the thoughts are interrupting your field. So there's infinite examples of this. That's what I'm saying. When you're carrying the blueprint, I shouldn't have to reiterate this to you that much more about why you would want to do this. And why, if you don't, and if it's not even making sense, you have to clear up some things for yourself, because this is only about you. This is not about everybody else online. It's definitely about me. If my eyes close, your eyes won't. You'll never see me again unless you actually understand who I am from a spiritual level. And you can never do that until you understand yourself and how to tap into your own personal spirit. And if you don't think that you have one, you're mistaken. That means you've been fooled by this system on the right, or excuse me, on the left, because that system is so new. And if anybody knew what they were looking at on the right, you will realize what's on the left is so new. It's kind of only been a concoction within the last 150 years, 200 years. They claim antiquity, but they don't have it. It's ideal to say your stuff was around since the beginning of the earth, but the earth didn't have a beginning. So we know for sure that we are surrounded by vipers, meaning people who don't have integrity. They literally will not only take the knowledge itself, the secret knowledge, make it all confused, make sure you don't get to it, have you communicating with dead bodies and shells for power that they do not have. That's another thing. That's why this mysticism, their mysticism, it doesn't even work. It's about power that it's like somebody saying that they're going to give you $1,000 and they don't even have $10 themselves. That's what the shells are already running out of energy. So that's the big trick of the world, because you know the governments are involved in that. You know that they're involved in evoking that lower realm and trying to feed something that is so greedy. That's why when they show them, they got these books, they show they got these huge mouths and all these teeth and these big giant bellies, because they're greedy. And then there's always a hole in the bottom, because everything they consume just falls right out of the bottom, because they never can be satiated. What is that? That's like, man, it doesn't matter. Like, you can have 5 of these different cars and 10 strippers and 6 wives and 4 houses. And all you would be doing is getting yourself deeper and deeper into ever being able to actually climb Mount Meru. But it eventually will happen, though. And this is why there's no mercy. This is why at times there's no mercy, because still in the sim, they know eventually you're going to get refined. That's what samsara is. You got two ways into this. You can keep getting ground down, or you can make the climb. Some may not see that much as a choice. I'm like, shit, we got to climb then. Some will sit back and try to let the decision be made for them. And that will be just like any other time you needed to make a big decision and you put it off or you put it on somebody else to make. That also happens a lot in the Uniteds and in the Western culture mindset, is that moving like from a level of maturity, being a woman, being a man, making a decision now, telling a person straight up, look, I'm not running that because you like them or whatever like that. That wavering and that just plunges you right back in, because now it's you and this physical person. You trying to look good for them so that they like you and all this. So you can imagine how long this is going to go on then. Right? That's why they start talking about thousands of lives of reincarnation. Like that sounds preposterous, but when you really drill into this, and you can see where some folks are at, because there's constant distraction. I don't know what this would look like if there wasn't so many things that were trying to keep a person from actually climbing the hill. It wouldn't even be a hill. You get it? It wouldn't be a mountain. Meaning, if there was no challenge, if there was not something trying to pull you over here, some demon trying to come from there and, hey, come down here and get some of these big booties. You know what I mean? If it wasn't something that was trying to pull you down, there would be nothing to wrestle against. See, that's why sometimes you got to sit back and just close your eyes and you feel it. And you're like, this is not something that I'm trying to look at like a movie and see it happen. I'm never going to see it happening that way. Even if I'm looking externally and I open my third eye, I'm not necessarily going to see it. It's inside in the everyday actions that we're making of how the consciousness is already trained. It's being trained or has been trained to keep one captive. And then got you over there thinking it's your idea. Shaitan regime, meaning protect me from the whispers of those lokas in the lower worlds. The crazy mind that be like, no, we good. Oh, I'm getting tired. Do you think you get tired? Who is that? Who's talking to you? Oh, I don't know if this is really what I want to do right now. What I'm gonna do. Who the hell is that? You got to be sitting there. You got to get out of the coccyx of your spine and get up here at mission control, check in, see the peak and the pinnacle, feel what it's like to be completely liberated. Now, no possessions, uncle, auntie, sister, brother, I don't care. Right now, it's me, self, in the vein that all is self. Now I feel what it's like. I know what it's like to be clear. Now you're like Houdini in this. Yo, put me back in. Wrap me back up. Yo, get the straight jacket, get the chains and the whole nine, dump me in the tank upside down with a shark in there. That's what it's like to go all the way back down again, right? But see, as the mages, this is like, watch this. They always say that's the last thing a person may say before they die. Watch this. Before I dive into this thing again and then show you the work.